Hi, and welcome to the Ciclovia Tucson volunteer training for the November 2nd events. My name is Kylie Walzak, and I am the Ciclovia Tucson event coordinator. I'll be walking you through an overview of the responsibilities of a Ciclovia Tucson super volunteer. First, though, I'm going to introduce you to some people who will be helpful to you the day of the event. First off, we have Gary Mason. He's our Ciclovia and Living Streets Alliance volunteer coordinator. You've probably gotten some emails from Gary. Next up, we have Emily Yetman. She's the Executive Director of Living Streets Alliance and will be primarily stationed at the Living Streets Alliance Hospitality Tent, which will be located at North 6th Avenue and East 7th Street at the Southern Activity Hub. Next, we have Evren Sonmez. She also is with Living Streets Alliance and will be roaming the route in a bright yellow t-shirt. Stop her if you have any questions at all or need any support. And lastly, we have Ann Chineka, City of Tucson Department of Transportation Bicycle and Pedestrian Program Coordinator. Ann has direct access to all of the TPD officers, EMTs, and barricade staff and personnel. So if you have any questions about barricading and or emergency situations, Ann Chineka is your person to look for. She'll also be available by phone. Okay, let's get started with the training. But first off, I just want to extend my heartfelt thank you to you for becoming a super volunteer. This is our 7th Ciclovia event in 5 years, and we couldn't put on as many great events as we do without the support of hundreds of people like you and thousands of hours of volunteer time. So thank you very much for helping to make this event possible. If you've never been to Ciclovia before, you've really been missing out. Ciclovia in Tucson is our interpretation of an international movement called Open Streets Events that encourages people of all ages and abilities to get out of their cars for a day and out onto the streets to walk, skate, jog, dance, roll, ride, and just play again on car-free streets. Why is this important? Because we live in a society, and especially a city, where our transportation choices are dominated by the vehicle, and there's a lot of consequences to that. People don't get enough exercise, cars cause traffic congestion and pollution, and we rarely take the time to get to know our neighbors or the local businesses that make our city unique. Ciclovia is a chance to change all that by inviting people to explore new neighborhoods, discover new businesses, try out biking or walking for transportation, learn about history and architecture, try new foods, and just slow down for a day and take in the beautiful surroundings we live in. So again, a big thank you for making this special day possible for thousands of people from across Tucson. So a little bit about Living Streets Alliance, the organization that puts on this event twice a year. Ciclovia Tucson is a program of Living Streets Alliance. It's our flagship program. Living Streets Alliance is a member-supported nonprofit organization that works to improve access for healthy modes of transportation in the region through outreach, education, encouragement, advocacy, and research. By becoming a member of Living Streets Alliance, you are supporting the work we do year-round to make our streets safe, friendly, comfortable, and attractive places to be, not just during Ciclovia, but every day. Okay, so a little bit about the route. Just so you know where the information stations will be located, you have been assigned and will be stationed at one of these 4 booths along the route. In the north, we have the northernmost information station at the Keeling Neighborhood Hub, actually inside the PAG activity tent, which will be set up along Fontana Avenue between Blackledge in the north and Laguna in the south. Next up, we have an information booth at Mansfield Park area on North 4th Avenue, just south of Saguaro Street. And continuing south, we have another information booth also on 4th Avenue, but just adjacent to Catalina Park. So that's just south of East 1st Street and just north of East 2nd Street. And then finally, we have the final information booth at the Southern Hub, North 6th Avenue and East 7th Street inside the Living Streets Alliance Hospitality Tent. Every information booth will have donated water courtesy of Sparklettes. These are in 5-gallon jugs, so we encourage people to refill water bottles and we don't distribute water in plastic bottles. There will be route maps for people to take with them, first aid kits, sign-up sheets for people to sign up and get a notification when the next Ciclovia is happening, information about LSA programs, Cinco for Ciclovia raffle box and Cinco for Ciclovia cards, more on that in a minute, And you'll also have intersection volunteer t-shirts to distribute to your intersection volunteers when they check in. There will also be an assortment of games and snacks and all kinds of other free stuff to give away. Everything that should be given away to the public will be labeled. If something's not labeled and you're not sure, best to err on the side of good judgment and just leave it aside. But you can always flag one of us during the event and ask us if we think you have the table set up correctly with all the information. Okay, so a note about super volunteer roles the day of the event. There will be a captain super volunteer. They get the cape if they want it. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody can wear the capes. This person is responsible for knowing the emergency protocol inside and out, and that information is available in the packets that you will receive. There's also a volunteer coordinator. This person needs to arrive to their information booth, please, by 11:30 p.m. for the afternoon shift. For the morning shift, you can arrive at 9 a.m. There's a setup super volunteer. That person needs to arrive by 8 a.m. to be ready to receive and or keep an eye on stuff while the other volunteers arrive. You can also start setting up stuff, but we just need one human being's body to be at the location as we're dropping off stuff in the morning. And then conversely, we have a breakdown super volunteer who needs to be a person to stay at the booth until all materials have been picked up by Ciclovia staff. Here's some general advice for all volunteers at the info booth. In order to be effective and answer the most frequently asked questions by participants, please do this beforehand, before your shift or even before the event. Study the event map and be prepared to answer fundamental questions such as where are the nearest restrooms located, where is the nearest bike repair, and all bike repair along the route should be free, FYI. Also, where is the nearest place to get youth under 18 fitted with free helmets? Also, where can I buy merchandise? You'll want to know that. And where are food trucks and other activities of interest located? You'll need to know the protocol for collecting Cinco for Ciclovia raffle tickets. And again, I'll go over that in a second. All volunteers at information booths should be prepared to assist with traffic management and step in and fill intersections if volunteers aren't showing up, if you're needed to, and we'll go over that in a second. And then also, please read the information that's provided at all of the tables so that you can be responsive to people and suggest information if they're looking for specific things. We want to make sure people walk away with as much stuff as they need to feel equipped to bike and walk for transportation after the event too. A note, please note for everybody involved that there's only one place this year to buy merchandise, which is our t-shirts, water bottles, stickers, scratch that, not stickers, more on that in a minute. T-shirts, water bottles, bandanas, posters, buttons. You can only purchase that material this year at the Living Streets Alliance hospitality tent at North 6th Avenue and East 7th Street, so all the way in the south. A note about schedules. Morning volunteers, if you aren't the setup volunteer, please report to your booth at 9 a.m. and stay until 12 p.m. And afternoon volunteers, if you aren't the breakdown volunteer or the volunteer coordinator, please report to your info booth at 12 p.m. and stay until 3. Again, breakdown, you'll stay until all the material's picked up, and volunteer coordinator, you'll arrive at 11:30. Okay, Cinco for Ciclovia. So this is a new program with Ciclovia this year. It's a way for us to feature 25 activity partners who have donated some portion of a fee to Living Streets Alliance to help put this event on. These cards will be available at all information booths, and it works like a scavenger hunt. So on the big maps that you'll have at every information booth, you'll be able to see where each of these activities are located. The goal is to get participants to go and check out 5 of these in a row. Of course, they can check out many more than 5, and we want them to. But if they get 5 in a row, they get bingo. And at each activity, there'll be rolls of stickers for people to cover up their space on the bingo card. And then if they want to fill up their free spot in the middle, they need to go to any information booth and donate $5 to Ciclovia. Once they donate $5, they're entered into a raffle. And you can see on the bottom there's a space for them to fill out their name and email. They can tear off that bottom part and submit their contact information into the raffle. The prizes include an Electra cruiser bike from Trek Bicycles of Tucson and a Swobo Folsom single speed bike from Ordinary Bike Shop, as well as lots of other prizes and gear and gift certificates. They don't have to donate $5 in order to be eligible for the raffle. You can see that there are numerous ways to get 5 across or 5 down, but we do encourage people to donate $5 to Ciclovia because that helps us keep this event free and frequent. Again, quickly, here's a summary of what I just went over. I wanted to show you the image first. There's a great raffle. You can pick up cards at any info booth. You can also drop off your contact information at any info booth. You get stickers at every featured activity partner. Tear off the contact information. Please help us make sure that their contact info is legible. It's free to play, $5 donation. You can drop it off anywhere at any info booth. And that's not the only way to help us fundraise this year to keep Ciclovia free and frequent. You can, of course, enter the raffle. There will be donation buckets distributed at every info booth, and we have limited edition stickers. I'll show you what those look like on the next slide. And we're asking for a $1 donation for each sticker that a person takes with them. And this year we're having a contest. The information booth that raises the most money for Ciclovia wins a pizza party. So just to really sink this in, get giveaway stickers on the left, get pizza on the right. Thank you for your help in fundraising. I know it's never fun to fundraise, but we're hoping to make this as fun as possible by giving people some really cool stuff and some really cool opportunities to win prizes. Really quickly, this has changed recently since we put all of this program together, but there will be copies of Bike Life magazine available at every information booth. Therefore, if people want to get a sticker for picking up a copy of Bike Life Tucson magazine, every information booth will have stickers, and you'll be able to cover that box on the bingo cards for people. Okay? So, to summarize information booth roles, the more you know about the event, the better and more helpful you'll be. Be knowledgeable, familiarize yourself with the route, activities, and food trucks, and also bathrooms, helmet locations, free bike repair, and all that good stuff, and encourage people to donate. Please and thank you. Okay, now I'm going to go over what the volunteer coordinators at every information booth can expect. And really, the volunteer coordinators have a lot of responsibility, so this is important information for all of the other super volunteers at information booths to know, because you can jump in and help the volunteer coordinators if they're getting a little bit swamped at check-in time. So here's what to expect when volunteers start showing up at 9:30 a.m. or 12 p.m. to prepare for their volunteer intersection shift. Volunteers will find your information booth, and they will expect to have you have a spreadsheet, and you'll want to coordinate and make sure that contact information is correct on your spreadsheet. So locate the person's name, check to make sure that their cell phone information is accurate, and check to make sure that they have your cell phone contact information, because the primary means of communicating between intersection volunteers and the information booths is via cell phone. Next, the volunteers are going to ask for their Ciclovia t-shirts, and they may be picking up several t-shirts from members in their group. So all that information should be provided on the spreadsheet. There'll be stacks of fluorescent safety vests. You can give those to the intersection volunteers if you like. You can hand them a stack of car detour maps, which will show the volunteers how to redirect cars away from the route in their area. And you're going to want to go over that with them, especially if the volunteers are not familiar with the area where they are volunteering. You're going to want to point out those blue areas that are car crossing areas, and you're going to want to show them where the volunteers intersection is so that they can figure out where the nearest car crossings are. You might want to hand them some extra caution tape in case they show up to their intersection and there's gaps between the barricades. If it's in the morning, you may prepare the intersection volunteers that they may need to move the barricades out into the street. You are going to explain to the volunteer how to assist a motorist who approaches the intersection. You're going to explain to the volunteer how to assist a resident who needs to get out of their residence along the route. You're going to hand the volunteer coordinator your phone number, and you're going to explain the emergency protocol to the volunteer and then answer any questions the volunteers might have. And do not send the volunteers out to their posts until you feel completely confident in their comprehension of all the instructions you've given them. Make sure that if they do have any questions, that you go over those thoroughly with them. So what happens after that? So after the volunteers have been oriented at the information booths, they head down to their intersections. If it's in the morning, they might need to pull those barricades out properly into the street. The volunteers then set up their posts. If they're having activities or games, they can do that down there. And then they wait for those cars to creep up to the intersection. But by this time, they've studied their car detour maps enough that they know how to reroute them, and they know how to get cars off the route quickly. How do they get cars off the route quickly? So if a car is approaching from, in this picture you see what looks to be a resident wanting to exit the route. I'm going to start actually with what happens if a car comes from the other way, from wanting to cross the route but maybe isn't a resident. So if a car is at that intersection on the other side of that stop sign, the volunteer needs to walk up to them, approach the driver's side, introduce themselves, say that they are volunteering with Ciclovia and they are here to help the motorist navigate the area. They're supposed to inform the driver that they are not allowed to cross the route. This is sometimes the hardest part of the job because a lot of times drivers won't see anybody in the street, or they'll see big gaps in the traffic of bicyclists and walkers, and they'll just want to say, well, I just want to get across the street. We do have specially designated car through areas, and we want to always encourage drivers to use those areas because there are police personnel there, and it's a much safer way for cars to get across the route. So volunteers are supposed to encourage the drivers to turn around and head either north or south to the nearest car crossing intersection. If the driver refuses, the volunteer will ask the driver to wait, and the volunteer will alert all of the participants on the road that a car is about to enter the intersection. The volunteer can stop the participants if they need to, but really the goal is to get that car through the route as quickly as possible. There may need to be some barricades that need to be moved, but all of this is a good incentive for asking the car driver to just turn around and go a different direction because it might be faster in the end. However, if it's a resident and they're backing up out of their driveway and they want to get off the route as quickly as possible, it's the job of the intersection volunteer to be constantly scanning the route for cars in this situation. If they see a resident backing out of a driveway, they need to walk up to them and ask them if they can assist them in getting off the route, and asking the drivers to drive at a walking pace. And we want the intersection volunteers to physically walk alongside the car and escort the car off the route. Of course, at the same time, the volunteer has alerted participants along the route to the fact that there is a car entering the route, so everybody knows. Drivers aren't allowed to drive for multiple blocks. They need to get off at the first intersection possible. The goal for everybody involved is to get the vehicle off the route as quickly and safely as possible. Remember, tell your volunteers this: you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Some people won't be as happy as the thousands of people participating in Ciclovia, so we want to always remain positive, courteous, polite, helpful, and calm. People respond really well. Drivers respond really well when you tell them that this will all be over soon. So encourage people to remind the drivers right away that this is an event that happens just once a year on these streets for only 5 hours. If it's noon, tell them it's just 3 more hours. We want to encourage people who are going out and running errands to consider parking their car on a side street and just leaving their car and walking back to their house. We have gone out this weekend and done a ton of outreach to people who live all along the route, encouraging people, number one, to consider scheduling their errands on Sunday, November 2nd for before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m. so that they just don't drive at all, but that they participate in the event. Now, we understand a lot of people can't do that because they work, and so we've given lots of people backup options of parking their car on side streets so that if they know they have to leave between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., they can just walk to their car and avoid the route altogether. If neither of those two options are workable, the last thing we tell people to do is to look for a volunteer, alert the volunteer that you need to drive on the route, and have them help you get off the route. So a lot of people have received this information already. A lot of people, and by that I mean a lot of residents along the route, have received this information already. Of course, it's impossible to get everybody, but this is what we've spent the last couple of weeks doing. So it should be familiar to at least some residents, hopefully. The last thing you want to be sure to tell your volunteers is that if they ever feel threatened or in danger, have them call 911 immediately. Tell the police dispatch that they are working the Ciclovia event, give them their location, name, describe what's happening to them, and remain on the line until the dispatch tells them it's okay to hang up. Okay, a note about bathroom breaks for everybody. Information booth volunteers have it kind of easy because you'll be located near bathrooms. However, your intersection volunteers won't be located so near to the bathrooms. So the intersection volunteers have been instructed to know where the closest restrooms are located to them. And if they are alone, they are supposed to call you at the information booth, and your job is to help arrange for a sub to go down and relieve them while they relieve themselves. You can also flag down bike patrol and have them sub for that volunteer at that intersection while they go use the restroom. You can also flag down any staff personnel who I introduced you to at the beginning of this presentation and have them sub for that intersection volunteer. It's also helpful during the orientation to have your volunteers know where the bathrooms are so that they can answer that question if they get asked during the event by participants. Okay, emergencies. Intersection volunteers have been instructed that if they see any situation that they think requires emergency assistance, to dial 911, tell them your location, what you are witnessing, and that you are a volunteer for Ciclovia. They need to remain on the phone until the operator tells them it's okay to hang up. And they've been instructed to recognize what might require an emergency response. And these include seeing a crime in progress, when someone's breaking a law, when you or another person is in immediate need of fire, police, or medical assistance, when you are a victim of a crime. So if any of those three things should happen, call 911 immediately. What happens if someone along the route, a participant, has a minor non-emergency injury? Intersection volunteers have been instructed to keep the person calm and still, do not move them, call the information booth immediately and describe the situation, fill out an incident report form, which should be given to the intersection volunteers in their packet when they go to their area. Wait for either a volunteer from the info booth, an EMT or police officer, or Ciclovia staff to arrive if the situation requires one. And I will just say before leaving this slide that in the 5 years of having this event, the most serious emergency or injury we've dealt with is a rolled ankle. So knock on wood that continues to be the extent to which we've had emergencies or injuries. The lost child protocol. So what happens if a child is separated from their parent? Information volunteers and intersection volunteers need to ask the child or parent to describe the missing person. If they are upset, try to calm them. Due to the risk of allergies, do not offer the child anything to eat. You can offer them water to drink. Scan the area and try to locate the missing person yourself. If it's a child, we find that most children know their parents' cell phone numbers these days, so encourage the child to use your cell phone and call their parent. If it's an intersection volunteer who has come across a lost child, they're instructed to call the information booth and inform you, the volunteers, of their location and that they have a lost child or parent looking for a child. Describe the situation to you and then wait for instructions from you. If you've scanned the area and you can't find the missing person, the next step for you is to contact Ann Chineka, who has a radio, and will then radio out to the rest of the route that there is a missing person. We frequently have missing children, and parents and children get separated from each other. However, we've always reunited them by the end of the event, usually much sooner than that. It is something that we deal with frequently, and the police, EMT, and all staff are constantly looking for children when this happens. But again, as a reminder, Ciclovia is largely a very safe, family-friendly, hugely positive event, and it brings out the best really in all of the people who participate. And so we're not trying to scare you with this orientation or this training, but we are just letting you know what to do in the case of emergency. As always, if you have any questions or are unsure what to do from the information booth standpoint, contact Ann Chineka or myself, and then we'll contact the appropriate authorities if the situation requires it. You are, as a super volunteer, empowered to make decisions that solve problems. So please use your best judgment in your position and do what you need to solve problems at your location. Here's a note about group intersections. We have a lot of group intersections. They are placed strategically at the major car crossing areas of Glen Street, Grant Road, Speedway, and 6th Street. And the role of group intersection volunteers are to work in tandem with the TPD officers and physically block participants from entering the busy intersections when the lights turn red. We have police officers directing traffic east-west. They're also watching and keeping an eye on the intersections of north-south flowing participants. However, because this is a family-friendly event, a lot of times we have little children who haven't learned yet what it means to stop at traffic lights. And for parents, this is a really good teachable moment. And so we can use the help of group intersection volunteers to just keep an eye on those busy areas and remind parents to keep their kids in close while waiting for lights to change. You will be dealing with group intersection representatives as they come to you to check in on behalf of their entire group. Hopefully you won't get flooded by the entire group. We've instructed them to send 1 or 2 people to you for the check-in process. But here's a few more things to keep in mind when talking to group intersection representatives. They needed to have had the other members of their group watch the online training video before the event. They've got the link. They need to send no more than 2 people to you to check in, confirm contact information, get supplies, t-shirts, exchange phone numbers, etc. They need to bring their own tables, chairs, tent, canopy, swag to give away, water bottle, sunblock, hat, umbrella. Of course, if somebody forgot, you should have extras of these supplies at your information booth and feel free to lend it to them, but I wouldn't let them walk away with it. You need to confirm with them that they have set a schedule within their group to make sure that their intersection is covered the entire time. They can split up and go out and explore the event in smaller groups, but they need to make sure that they have at least bodies there between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. They're usually only responsible for one side of the street, and this will be clarified for you on the spreadsheet. And they are encouraged to have fun, engage people, play, and distribute all kinds of information about their organization or upcoming events. If you have any other questions that come from the group volunteers that you can't answer, please contact Gary or myself and we will do our best. So this concludes the super volunteer training. I hope I answered most of your urgent questions. If I did not, please call me at 520-261-8777 anytime this week, 520-261-8777, or you can email me, Kylie, Kylie, at livingstreetsalliance.org. You can also email Gary at livingstreetsalliance.org. You will have our cell phone numbers for Sunday if any questions arise that you don't know how to deal with. But most of all, again, thank you so much for being a volunteer, and I hope you have a lot of fun on Sunday.